Reaction to the verdict?
I'm disgusted, angry. Yeah, this is a travesty of justice.
Well, the corruption is in the courts. How's that?
It has just been very disturbing. We have no freedom, none.
They should have been given time served, in my opinion. Well, they'd served more time than they should have anyway, so I'm disgusted by it. There's just no justice anymore.
Sheila Gunn-Reid for Rebel News, and I'm standing here outside of the Lethbridge, Alberta courthouse, where just moments ago, Anthony Olenek and Chris Carbert were given 6.5 years each in prison for their actions at an anti-COVID mandate demonstration in Coutts, Alberta in February 2022. Carbert and Olenek were previously convicted of mischief and weapons-related offenses earlier in the summer by a jury in the courtroom of Justice David Lebrenz. However, it should be noted they were acquitted of the more serious charge of conspiracy to commit murder, specifically against RCMP officers at the border between Alberta and Montana. Now, I should note, a new development here today was the dearth of media who have shown little to no interest in the day-to-day proceedings of the trial here in Lethbridge, save for a handful. However, Rebel News has been here on the ground from the very beginning. You can see our reporting and support our independent journalism at truckertrials.com. The Crown, in sentencing arguments in late August, had asked for 9 years of incarceration, at the time prompting Justice David Lebrenz to question if the prosecutor was asking for a sentence for a firefight with police that never happened. Defense counsel for the two men, Marilyn Burns and Catherine Bayek, wanted the men to be sentenced to time served. However, it was not to be. Citing the men's so-called willingness to use firearms where and when they wanted to against police officers as aggravating factors in sentencing, Justice David Lebrenz sentenced Anthony Olenek to 6 years for weapons-related offenses, another 6 months tacked on for having explosive devices, notably pipe bombs, and 6 months to be served concurrently for mischief, amounting to a grand total of 6.5 years behind bars. Carbert received the same custodial sentence of 6.5 years for weapons-related offenses and 6 months to be served concurrent for mischief. The pair also received a lifetime prohibition on firearms ownership, and they are required to submit their DNA to the nationwide DNA databank. The pair were given credit for 1,409 days of their 939 days of pretrial custody, calculated at 1.5 days credit per 1 day served, which means they'll have roughly 2 years, 8 months left to serve of their custodial sentence. Now, the courtroom was completely packed today. In fact, it was at fire code capacity. And I asked some of those who were in the courtroom, but also outside the courtroom waiting, what they thought about the sentences today. Reaction to the verdict?
I'm disgusted, angry. Yeah, this is a travesty of justice.
Absolutely appalled. I cannot believe what the judge has handed down.
Oh, I'm absolutely disgusted. I think there's absolutely no justice here at all. Clearly, the purpose of this was to set an example for others, and we can see clearly that's what's happened.
This is not any good. I think that the whole pandemic should have been on court, on trial. Yeah. The whole pandemic, they represented millions of people. They make it so that in Canada we can't protect ourselves, we can't speak up anymore. It doesn't matter that kids are dying. What matters is that they made their point and they've got these guys in jail for 3 more years.
Well, the corruption is in the courts. How's that?
Are you surprised, though?
I'm not surprised. I've been through this myself for some time now. I've been in these courtrooms, in these hallways for too long, and it's not done. But I've learned to get off that emotional roller coaster and focus on the reality of our judiciary and our justice system. It's very flawed, it's broken, it's highly politicized. I'm not surprised, but I'm still disgusted.
Yep. It has just been very disturbing. We have no freedom, None.
They should have been given time served, in my opinion. Well, they'd served more time than they should have anyway, so I'm disgusted by it. There's just no justice anymore.
Not very good. I'm not very happy with it. I mean, they suffered enough already, and in my opinion, they should have been released today. But unfortunately, they want to make an example of all of us with this punishment. That's about it.
Are we safer? I feel unsafe. I feel unwell. I feel scared about the future. I feel angry. I feel really angry, actually.
All those examples that judge was giving was as if these guys were guilty of trying to murder police officers. That was my feeling. Like, the jury said, no, you're not. Why are you doing this?
Now, something new here at court today that I haven't seen, and I know my Rebel News colleagues haven't seen, and that's the presence of a large-scale media flock. What do you think they're doing here?
Well, I'd like to say that they're here to see me, but that's not the case. I understand this is the end of the proceedings, appeals aside. They're here to solidify their initial statements. The initial statements that came out of Coutts, ones that I was a big part of, right? We've been infiltrated by an extreme element. They're here, they want to solidify that, right? Media doesn't like to be wrong. Unfortunately, most of these folks, most of these organizations, and I mean, they all fall under one umbrella. They haven't been here for the proceedings. So, again, huge emphasis on a thank you to Rebel, Western Standard for following this, and independent media for being there and exposing that even though the sentencing hasn't fallen and isn't what we'd like to see, we can understand that coming to this result based on how proceedings have gone. And that I believe that mainstream doesn't want to put focus on the nature of the proceedings, but thankfully independent media has done that. There's definitely grounds for appeal.
It's the sadness I have is that the sentence awarded did not show the compassion that so many thought that would be there. These boys needed to be, if they had to have extra time, it needed to be under 2 years time that they would be able to spend right here in Lethbridge close to their families. Their families could see them. Chris's young son could visit him. They could have a decent time. But over 2 years takes them out of the communities. And unfortunately, that is not going to accomplish what they want to accomplish. Absolutely. Because the people that are standing behind them are going to continue to stand behind them. This isn't the end of, if they think that we're all going to go home scared, it's not going to happen.
This government is putting us at risk if we can't speak up for ourselves, if we can't get together in groups. Those two men had nothing to do with closing a highway. They could never be responsible for shutting a highway. Let's talk about all the Palestinians closing stuff. Let's talk about the fear being from Canada, having people going across a road praying.
We've seen that even though they've been acquitted of the conspiracy charge, the discussion around the conspiracy hasn't gone away. And they're still they're now using the charge possession of weapons for a dangerous purpose, as in, well, who are you shooting? Who are you there to shoot? And I don't follow that logic. Yes, it was a complete lapse of judgment. I have never condoned bringing guns to the protest, but I mean to bring it to this level when we have serious offenders, serious criminals that have murdered multiple times, been through the system multiple times, walking our streets, that are a real danger to society, and we have these family men who have served significant time for that lapse of judgment, for that wrongdoing, that alleged conspiracy that has now fallen off the table, to be remanded longer. It's disgusting.
Stay alive, because if these guys get 3 more years after being in remand for 3 years, almost 3 years, it's just totally injustice. It's total injustice, Sheila. Total.
If things go south, the reality is we're Canadians, we're Albertans, we're peaceful. Unfortunately, we don't take shit. We stand up to government. when government is out of line. Now, does that make us a threat? Apparently, but we're not a threat to the public.
Previously, 2 other men charged in relation to the same alleged conspiracy, part of the Coutts 4, are free after pleading guilty to lesser charges. Chris Lysak was sentenced to 3 years for possession of a restricted firearm in an unauthorized place, and Jerry Morin was also sentenced to 3.5 years for conspiracy to traffic firearms. Now, both of those sentences handed down amounted to time served. No word yet on whether the defense will appeal this sentence. However, the Crown is appealing the acquittal of Olynyk and Carbert on the conspiracy to commit murder charges. So this case is far from over. For Rebel News here in Lethbridge, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. To see all of our coverage from here in Lethbridge related to the border blockade trials, and to see all of our convoy related trial coverage, please go to truckertrials.com.